Hello, good evening. Hi, my name is Chris Farah. Welcome to my YouTube, where today I will be talking about 90 Day Fiance the other way. This is season 7, it's episode 5. This is a live recap where obviously I'm going to recap the show, and I have to go through every couple, and I have a pick or two, and I am open to your comments. If there's a bunch of them, I might do it at the top or bottom of the episode, or not. I'll just go through, but I'm super excited to obviously talk about the season and continue to do it. This was a transitional episode. Fours, fives, that makes sense as we kind of get into the thick of things. And that's fine. I don't mind that. Like, I don't mind a little relaxation, a little mental relief, just like a mild vacation. However, it's about tension building, and it's about, you can't just like hear someone always yell, even though Jasmine and Madeline would certainly like to. And, I think Angela would be there too. But I think that, we have to have ebbs and flows to such a thing. So, we are going to start. Hello. Hi, guys. Thank you for being here. Hello. I love it. Thank you so much. If you haven't yet, if you get in the room, just like turn on that light bulb, turn on the light bulb by like flipping that switch, honey, giving it a thumbs up. Hi. Good morning for you. Good evening for me at 6 o'clock on that West Coast in America. But oh my God, so happy to see you. How are you? I'm so happy. Thank you so much for being here. Yeah. So please like this video. Please subscribe to this channel. Please hit the notification bell if you haven't yet, just so that you are just promptly aware whenever I decide to do YouTube, which I'm getting back into it. I'm going to make sure I have a Scooge Wow where I can post and have a couple of lives a week where we go over the shows we're watching. 3 a.m. Oh, goodness gracious. Thank you so much for being here. Because I'm obviously following Toe, and then Sister Wives, which I posted yesterday, the review for season 20, episode 2, and Love is Blind. I dropped the first 3 episodes, and then I'm going to do the next 3 episodes, I think tomorrow. I just have to so I have to like plan a time. Anyway, and then the next ones drop tomorrow. So then I'll probably talk about those on Saturday. So that's my plan. Maybe I'll do Thursday and Saturday. But having said that, thank you so much. Again, it's 3 o'clock, 3 minutes. I'll start right now. I'll go ahead and start the app, which is going to start Matthew and Greta. Listen, Matthew and Greta, is giving us a little like neurodivergence, which is great. And by far the most authentic, sincere, lovable, adorable storyline, with kind of like smaller, nuanced losses that like don't feel as intense as Madeline, like for some reason throwing an entire plate of food in one of the upcoming scenes on Luke, but instead just requires like Greta to be devastated by what seemingly could seem mundane and small. But let's get into it. So obviously she has traveled um to come see him, and he is excited. He says he has a whole butterfly sanctuary in his stomach, Matthew. I have a whole butterfly sanctuary in my stomach. He's talking to Apple, the cat. He's 26, of course. And one thing that he does, which is lovely, is Matthew goes through like all of Greta's sacrifices to be here. She's obviously the American going across to England, and he's like, I feel so bad. Greta had to give up Hazel, and Hazel was so important to her. Just like whatever. God bless. And you're like, oh, good, good, good. Feels like you really have leaned into like a certain amount of empathy and sensitivity for someone's sacrifice that seemingly seems like you would cater and or like show ways in which you see that. So anyway, we're like, oh good. Because we really care about Greta. Now she's rolling around with one of those cute like carry-ons, maybe like an away one, or Bais bags. When he sees her, he is so debonair, very British, almost formal, that she literally is like, why are you so formal? Why are you acting so crazy? But she's like so excited to be there too. She feels like it's living in a romantic novel, and it does feel like English countryside. This is some Jane Austen-y kind of like country court situation shit. This is cobblestones. This does feel worldly and definitely escapist, and definitely like, is this real? Because it feels literary. And certainly, um, certainly I feel like I am someone who can get mildly lost in literature because, I tend to also be on that like spectrum a little bit. And I can see how wild it must feel for her to be giving herself to what feels like a fantasy because it feels like a story, but it's real. Um, so basically she has to, what I'm assuming is, fly into London Heathrow and then take a bus, sorry, not a bus, a train to wherever he is in the countryside. Now, I have done this not to the English countryside, but I did do the train right from the airport to Edinburgh, and it was really easy. And the metro system there in such a way is so easy that like it's not, I don't think, hard. It's not a hard thing. It's almost like you go from the terminal. It's like an extra part of the terminal. So he, of course, comes to the train station. He's there. It's been 2 years since they've been dating, 6 months since they've seen each other. She comes out. He's right at the opening door of the exact cabin she's in. She's like taking it back. She's like, I know you'd be right here. Um, she's like, you look so different. She says it like 3 hardcore times. I I was like, oh, okay. First of all, he's kind of like, oh yeah, I got that haircut. And B, it's funny because we all in this moment are like, oh, she doesn't like the way he looks. she does. She has seen a difference, and it's not a marketed good one. Because you'd be like, oh my God, I love your hair. Oh my God, you look great. Oh my God, I missed you. Like, she doesn't ever say you look great or good, just you look different, like 3 different times. Hi. And he's like, yeah, it's my haircut. It'll grow back. She's like, I love it so much. Um, it's so funny. I will just say this. I think that I do a really good job hiding things, but I have grown to understand that I do, in fact, like a Greta level job of hiding things, expressions on my face, how I feel. Anyway, and it's funny because I think that probably in her moment of her in that, she probably thought she was holding back, honey. She probably thought that she had just barely mentioned it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, then he's like, you're right. Then he's like, well, you've traveled very, very long, and he says that she has BO. They okay. They have a certain kind of connection and relationship where they kind of do and have talked about, well, specifically him, gross things. Like he's talked about pimples and I feel like bathroom stuff. Like, I don't know if it's one of those things where when people get in a relationship, they just want to feel so comfortable that they just like let everything fly. Or if it's his version of what I do, which is like oversharing as a trauma response. But I don't think he had to say that many times. But yeah, she definitely stank. You know what I'm saying? And that's so funny because people stink and sometimes people don't stink. And sometimes people who don't stink sometimes stink. It's always so interesting. But she knows she does. I don't know if like her deodorant is all natural and doesn't quite work, or she said that she just had to carry a bunch of stuff. So that makes sense. It must have been really sweaty. I mean, maybe that's what you're saying. Like she had to carry all that stuff like in the airport and he like, why didn't he just pick her up from the airport? I mean, I don't even know how far he is away from the airport. I'm not quite sure what he does again. I know he said it, but it has to be like retold to me because he seems like he just does something from home, honey. Okay, so he does, however, ask again to help her with her luggage, which is admirable. And then that's when she's like, why are you being so formal? And he's like, well, just let him do this. So as I drive through the countryside. She's like, "Oh yeah, I forgot what it's like. It's all sheep and old people." Which I think is funny because I feel like, yeah, it's like cobblestones, and you think of like older people with white hair and sort of like pinky, kind of like red noses, like coming outside and giving you like a hands up, you know what I'm saying? And maybe they're wearing tweed or like wool or, well, what else is there? Kind of like tweed wool. Um, yeah, like one of those. Uh, I think that maybe, I think that yes. I think that yes. I think they both are giving us like a love on the spectrum vibe. And again, I'm absolutely here for it. Not for mostly every reason, which is love on the spectrum, because I recovered it for docu-sweeties, is shot with like such what hopefully feels like an attention to specificity, nuance, storytelling, and like emotions and wins and losses for the character that isn't so like intense scenes or people are trying to put on a show, right? Like the way, again, I'm gonna like the way that Matthew and Greta present on this very episode is very different from the way that Madeline and Luke present. And I would much rather watch a Matthew and Greta. So obviously, again, she's like, yeah, sheep and old people. And we're like, cool. She gets to the house, and I'll tell you that her greeting and her like salutation to Matthew was lukewarm. You know what I'm saying? Because she really didn't like the way he looked. But when she sees Apple, honey, she's like, yes, mommy's here. That's what she says to Apple. Mommy's here. And listen, Apple knows. Apple's like, yeah, God, she loves cats. And he knows it. He's like, she loves cats more than me. She loves cats. She's definitely comfortable around cats. She's cat comfortable. This is what I'm going to say. I've never been comfortable around cats. Cats to me are sneaky. Cats to me like don't want to. Dogs love you. Like they're not afraid to show you that they love you. Cats are finicky and sneaky and make you feel like they want nothing to do with you sometimes. And then sometimes they're like, now I'll let you be around. And it's rude. Okay, so that's how I feel about it. Dogs are better. So that's me. Okay, that's on me. She says, okay, here's the thing. Matthew, tiptoes, if not absolutely jumps into the deep dive, deep level pool of like too gross stuff. Now, one thing that she does is she wades into the pond of like sexual innuendo and being kind of like a little bit of a freak. And I like that for her. So she's like, this room is too close to his parents for this stuff that she likes to do. And then she's so cute. She's like, cut that. And then they didn't, which also is textbook love on the spectrum. But anyway, God bless. What does she want to do in the bedroom? Okay, just throwing out things like furry stuff. Or she like wants to, she's like, pretends to be like a cat, right? I mean, I don't mean to laugh. That feels like I'm kink shaming. We all have things. I get it. But I think that what is she has something sexual that she likes to do that she is a lot, maybe loud. That's why I also think it could be like she wants to pretend to be a horse. There's a lot of like people that do that kind of stuff. Anyway, again, this sounds like I'm kink shaming. It takes all kinds to make a world. Janae said that. So this is where it gets bad. This is where I would have loved to know more about the sex stuff, and then God bless. So it's already small. We've been knowing that. And she gets into his room, and he has a dresser, and he says that he has taken out clothes and prepared drawers for her that he is labeled with what looks like a Sharpie, which I felt was a bad choice. Room for her to unpack. And she takes out like one of the drawers with her name on it, and there is in fact stuff there. Now she's upset, and she, is definitely vocal about it. And this part I like. She doesn't start crying, though she does start crying. But right away, she makes him understand that she expected differently. Okay, this is what I wanna know, like, she really and I think that maybe this is just like a expectations thing. She honestly did expect him to be having already like an Excel spreadsheet of apartments that he had looked at with pros and cons, prices, all the things, move-in dates, deposits, all that's required. And I think that he obviously should have created more space for her. At the same time, I don't know how much space she like thinks that she's going to possibly get, and I don't know what the true problem is without us being like, well, I'm gonna need more space in that. And this again, I love that she's like, "No, we're gonna move your stuff now. Get a plastic bag and get your shit out. I'm gonna unpack my stuff." She seemingly is hanging on to a thread thinking that she has made a bad choice because it feels like if that's the case, if you take what I just said to be true, then any moment is like a moment to prove that she either did or didn't. So I wonder if then when he hasn't made like a morsel of room, I mean half a drawer, which like half a drawer of a half drawer of this dresser, if she was like, oh no, this is the sign that this was a bad choice or whatnot. I think that would have been great to have like a producer or someone like pull him aside or like, confession, be like, why didn't you make more room? And I think that he maybe he did somewhat say, which is like he thought it was enough room. And maybe you can say, like, well, I think that he could be absent-minded or like, someone who doesn't quite understand where clothes were. Cause like she's like, well, where do you think I was gonna put my shoes? And he's like, all right there underneath this rack. She's like, where your shoes are, those shoes right there? And he's like, yeah, you could have put six pairs there. And he's like, she's like, on I'm sorry, on top of your shoes? Are they gonna float in midair? Like, I do think that people's depth and perceptions are different. And I think that I can have some issues where I have to visualize things. So maybe he's someone who can't quite visualize things until you're there in present time. But maybe these are just conversations and she is tired and stinky. So she just has to like let him take his stuff out, not unpack right away. God bless. Take a shower. Do not put her luggage on top of their bed. But guess what happens? Which is luggage on top of bed, which is my pet peeve. Anyway, so he indubitably knows that he made like a fucked up mistake. She's like crying. Thankfully his parents aren't home, and I only say that because I would love, although I think it'd be great to like see them, and we're going to see them, it would have been a lot to have them in all this moment at the same time. And I am happy to meet them because I cannot imagine a world in which they're not kind of characters, not for any reason other than the fact that they're English from the countryside and I don't get to see them that much. And so how could that not be of interest to me? I'm curious. Listen, I don't want to like put out stereotypes out there. They are going to be, to me, like there's so many ways to play this, right? He seems, like he has kind of like a poshness to his accent. So if you're not going to be like full Cockney stereotype, then like maybe like someone who's like somewhat reserved, dry. If they are like a couple that's reserved and dry, but make like biting dark humor, I will be elated. But for some reason, if they're also like Cockney, like master of the house, like Les Mis, I also would be fine. Anyway, so either way, here's the thing. Options. Okay. So let's move on to kind of a smaller one. Manon and Anthony. Give me one second while I drink this water, but I want to take off my mic so you don't have to hear me like sip. Okay. So they woke up and they're doing what seems like somewhat better in the sense that Manon has understood that she has come back, that it's for the good of her family, that her husband feels some type of way, that she angered maybe his family and maybe his whole family hates her. And her family kind of hates hers too. But her family loves her child. And so this is a opportunity to change, grow, evolve, and like have a Hail Mary pass to kind of like rectify some of the wrongs in your life. And I can't imagine having this opportunity. I will just say this, Manon has a lot of, like, great parts of her life. Like, maybe she thinks her life is falling apart because, like, whatever, but at least I mean, she got married, had a kid, had a successful job, moved across the world, and it seems like she got a little lost along the way, but she still has these things and their families that she just has to, like, right the ship, right the course. Which also makes me feel like some part of her is better than we're seeing. Like, we're not seeing the good qualities of her, and so we have to, I assume, that they exist and hold space for them. We've definitely seen, like, overwhelmingly dramatic, selfish side to her. She must be incredibly engaging, charming, if not, like, joyful to be around at sometimes is what I said. At sometimes makes no sense. Sometimes. Um, Here is, like, a little fun day where they're going to have a fun getaway, and I was like, "Oh my god, where?" You know, like, because just like we were obviously in England and countryside, like, France does the same shit to me. I'm very interested. And we get a little bit of her backstory, which is that, you know, she grew up during summertime going to a townhouse in, like, a really small town. I would be like the way that they would, um I guess, blow off steam. I wanted to know, like, okay, what are the differences between the towns? Like, w is one more coastal? Is one more farm vibe? This is what I know. Like, obviously, we see where they are. It seems more like suburban. She says that the summer house was just in a very small town, a town where this is what her day was: aperitif, lunch, pétanque, and nap. Now, we'll talk about pétanque or whatever, which is like lawn bowling. Like, there's so many of these. There's like the yeah, I feel like pétanque is that other kind of ball thing where you throw balls and you try and hit the balls out of the way and the balls hit the other balls and oh no, and like who's the closest ball, like, that kind of thing. But it's one of those outdoor pastimes that's great that requires hardly anything besides A, outdoors, B, ground, C, balls, D, people. And that part's lovely, and you can kind of, in a very what feels like European way, do nothing for hours. It's funny because we have this 2025 term in the zeitgeist, like bed rotting. But I like the idea that, like, you could pretty much rot standing up to playing this game for hours and just drinking. Yeah, aperitif. I always thought aperitif was a day drink. So I'm assuming that her day, and I should have looked this up to know French, and you can tell me, like, if you know it. I thought aperitif was a day drink, and then there's lunch, and then there's pétanque, and then there's nap. And if that's it, then that's great. That to me means that you have, like, a mimosa on an empty bocce ball. Yeah. A mimosa, like, on an empty stomach, lunch, guinea quail salad, and then pétanque. Just, throwing balls. And then a nap, like a siesta. And I mean, who knows what's gonna happen at night at the, like, town. I like to think, like, what happened in the small town was that there's, like, 2 restaurants and there's just music happening and you get to go to, like, a lengthy meal, maybe starting at, like, 6:30, but it goes up until, like, 9:30, and then you, like, go to bed at, like, 10 or 10:15 unless you have, like, procured a lover of some kind, and then you can go upstairs or in one of the, like, cobblestone alleys in your own discretion and have dessert. Okay, so, or whatever, whatever your fantasy is in this kind of, like, summer house town. She is like she is trying to obviously have a good mindset about this, and Anthony sees it and he's like, "I'll tell you one thing about her, it's hard for her to move forward." Anthony, and I've said this in the last episode, and all of his confessionals speaks in a way that makes me truly feel by the time this ends that they are not together. There's something a little flippant or a little cold or a little futile about his tone about her. That doesn't seem like he is holding space in his language for her to change or for him to feel like he has any warmth or charm about her personality. Does that make sense? Do you guys pick this up? Because obviously they're editing around this, but he for someone who acts on camera in front of her like he's walking on eggshells, I just find what he says about her off camera to be very astute, truly, but also not like someone who's trying to hang around to have more of this. Um, you know, the more joyful parts of them, I guess, happens to do with Ben. And it's funny, like, yeah, her mother, Ben's grandmother, just is like Mon ami to Ben all the time. And you just get to kind of watch Manon, like, watch her mother love Ben in real time. And there's something about watching your mother, your maternal person, give maternal love to this child that you, for some reason, are not connecting with. And then you are like, oh, maybe it's good that we're here. But really, I'm like, well, maybe it's good for you to witness how to connect in a maternal way with this child. Did you guys think that? Like, there's a lot of reasons why women cannot connect with their children. And I'm going to tell you this right now, like absolutely real talk. I truly think my mother is one of them. I don't think my mother had an easy time connecting with me for whatever reason, like as a baby. Maybe because there's like depression involved, maybe because there's like some mental or personality, something or others. Who knows? I'm not a doctor, but what I'm saying is it's in this moment interesting to watch her mother be absolutely affectionate and loving towards Ben, and then almost have it be like computing in her mind. Anyway. Oh, good. I'm right. I like being right. Um, okay, so we're gonna move on again also to Madeline and Luke. So we're obviously on the hot on the heels of her conversation and Luke's conversation with Lazona, who we don't know exactly what Lazona and Madeline's like full relationship is, because it certainly seems like they're using their wits to scam Luke out of money for various endeavors, but also pageants, but also beauty, but also dresses, maybe a wedding. I'm not quite sure, but Lazona has seen so many things. Lazona gives a vibe like she is the smartest woman in like smartest person in like a 50-mile fucking radius of wherever they are. She feels like there's something about her demeanor, like she knows shit, like she runs shit. Like if you need anything, it's her. Like there's no wiser person to go to besides Lazona. And so it's interesting because I guess for Madeline, we obviously know that she has a kind of weird relationship with her mom, right? Her mom was very young and like wanted to kind of, I think, focus on work, whatever, and didn't really want to spend a lot of time with Madeline. I mean, not to beat a dead horse about hard daughter-mother relationships, but this is obviously what this conversation was that we had mostly last episode. But I bring it up now is because having all known that, and like, obviously, they're somewhat close now, she says, even though it still seems a little bit suspect because we saw Madeline's mom going to the beauty shop. Madeline's demeanor to Lazona is very female mentor. It's very wise woman. I defer to you. I respect you. And I don't want to look bad in front of you. And of all the people, again, in a 50-mile radius, I'll listen to you. And this will bring Rod up in a sense. But I thought it was so interesting. So obviously, and I hate to bring it up and because I don't want to think about it again, but she is, I mean, she's like, how do I say this? She's like eating the groceries out of this Nutella jar. I mean, she is up in there. I mean, she is tonguing the rims of that Nutella. She is using her nail and she's licking on part of her. It's so grotesque that it's like obviously hard to deal with. You can't be like, oh, what do you want? Do you want Matthew of Greta and Matthew to talk more about like every gross part of his body, or do you want to watch her do that? And I'm like, death, kill me, you know? But anyway, so at one point, Lazona, thankfully, is like, hey, bitch, wash your hands and wipe your face. It's all over. And she does. Madeline does immediately. And she doesn't really say it like that. She's just like, and it's interesting because again, I had brought this up last episode. I'm like, as a pageant coach, even like as a pageant coach, not like just a woman or whatever, like as someone who I'm assuming gives notes on grace or elegance or protocol. Honey, I'm not, whatever, God bless. I was just surprised that she allowed that. Only because we know how we felt immediately. And I've already told you, like, just like Greta's face when she doesn't like something, there's like not a way in which I think that you could have like been across from me and done that in front of me and not having borne witness to my face just lose every amount of like dignity I had for you in real time. So basically, again, this is annoying where we know that they need to like somewhat come up with like $3,000, and Luke's like, well, I don't have that. I only have 12. Is that enough? And she's like, no, bitch. Do you hear what I said? No. And so we have to cut something. And so they look at the list. And then again, we're all like the helicopter, but Madeline's like, yeah, no dancers. And you know what? No mariachi. And then Lizona's like, no mariachi. Wow. You cheap motherfucker. No mariachi. Sad. This is where it gets also interesting. So she's like, cool. Now, again, she's there to get payment. It's supposedly like really late for the payment. And like, we also know that Luke came on board with $3,000 in his pocket, freshly delivered in his pocket by his dad. And so when Lazona's like, all right, well, this is what you owe, he's like, give me until Monday, which is 2 days until payment. And I'm like, why? Where did the money go? You know what I'm saying? Because it seems to me like she's like, oh no, you didn't get the memo. The memo is I have to get paid now. You're already late. Like I can't, but that's not what it is. So, but then they go back to the house and like, Madeline is like, don't sleep in my fucking bed. You disgusting. He's like, what, Madeline? Am I not going to be able to sleep with you? She's like, fine. I'm just going to like not look at you. It's like there's something about them that seems put on, even though, okay, there's two ways to look at this. Like in my heart of hearts, I think that Madeline is just using Luke for money. In my heart of hearts, I think Luke is just a dumb person that like needs, a quote unquote attractive woman on his arm to like feel good about himself. And thus Madeline, who when I say woman, I mean like, and she is a woman, but she looks so young. So that part's also like a worry. I wish they would just allow us the awkwardness of this couple in itself without all of the like extraness of her and like the fake drama, because it makes it sort of unwatchable. There was this like, okay, this is very heady, and I'm so sorry to do this to you, but when I was like doing a writing class for comedy, they were talking about like when you would like trying to write a parody or writing a satire or a parody specifically. You cannot, or it's very difficult, or don't do it, or it's maybe not, it's like almost impossible. So don't do it. It's like, don't do it. It's hard to write a parody of a comedy. You have to write a parody of something that is serious or trying to take itself seriously or trying to be authentic, because a comedy is playing at for laughs, and I'm not saying that comedy isn't truthful, and obviously good comedy, there's morsels of truth. But what I'm saying is if you don't have like that place of groundedness, then it just seems fucking wacky, and Madeline and Luke just always seem wacky. Like I'm cringing when I'm seeing these upcoming scenes of her like throwing a whole plate of food and him just being like, "Oh, food at me." Like that's not anything that would happen in real life. So basically, they sleep together, which is whatever, neither here nor there. Like I'll tell you right now, like I think it'd be wildly more interesting to try and watch him have an honest conversation with Madeline's mom, right? Right? Like, he speaks somewhat broken Spanish, and there's, like, Google Translate. Like, I would rather that than her, like, pretending to get mad about money. Okay, I'm enough with that. So, Chloe and Johnny, honey, I do appreciate Chloe and Johnny because they do seem authentic, and it does seem like it's headed right to headed right to peril, and it doesn't seem like any of these people know that, and she shouldn't know she's too young. He should know he's seasoned, but he doesn't know. So they're gonna go to a beautiful dinner, which makes me really, really happy. And he compliments her. He's like, "You look so beautiful tonight." And she's like, "Don't start." And that always makes me LOL when I will say this. I think that women sometimes can have a tendency to be like, "Oh, like men don't do this, men don't do that, or we never get valued for this, or blah 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 blah." But I do think there's moments, and I'm sure I am guilty of it when. And again, I'm only talking, and this is like a cisgender heterosexual thing, where it's very obviously that a man has like offered a compliment or like given a gift of grace or something to a female who, for whatever reason, because she gets insecure or she's anxious or she's not paying attention, not only dismisses it, but dismisses him in a way that's like mean. But it's like a way that's kind of condescending. And she does it to him in this moment, and it's interesting because she's so young. I don't know. Um, I feel like he has presented as someone who's trying. And the fault here lies that he is trying for someone that is too young to appreciate it and therefore won't. And like to think about the fact that there is a way that this gets flipped for genders too, where like you can see how someone who thinks that they're trying and wants so badly to get an outcome in their mind from someone is expecting it from the wrong kind of person. Like they got into a relationship with someone who's fundamentally too immature, too young, wants something different. You know what I'm saying? Um, it's so easy to watch this stuff from like the outside in. It's so easy to have like a bird's eye view, be like, well, that's what's happening there. And then to like also be like, oh, why am I alone? Okay, so this whole dinner is hilarious. And she doesn't trust him at his job, the very job that, of course, she met him doing, which is a pirate ship gig, which she will then say that it's like, you know, an exotic dancing house afloat on the water. He's a stripper on the water, honey. And instead of, climbing poles, he's climbing, well, poles, but the poles are masts. What are those called? Masts? The, the ship pole. The bore? No. Ugh, no, I'm bad. My maritime lingo bad, bad, bad. Okay. So anyway, she goes, "So you mentioned that you want to open a business type situation. Um, I just want to know when you're going to lean towards leaving." And it's interesting, like the language used here for so many reasons, right? There's so many qualifiers. And that is something we do, right? Like I think there's a generational thing that we do. And I think I think that definitely like speaking to a mass kind of vagueness, females do that where it's like, we don't want to seem too harsh. So we're going to say what we want to say and then kind of back off and tiptoe it by making it a little vague, like we're just being chill about it. But, you know, um, To open a business type situation, and are you going to lean towards leaving? Like, she wants to be like, "Are you gonna get a job?" Because basically that's what she says later, right? Like, because we don't even really understand what that means, and neither does she. Like, what business type situation? You know who doesn't know? Him. In fact, he's only too happy not to know because then he throws it back on this 20 nothing year old cheerleader where he's like, "Yo, that's why you're here. Because I need you to help me come up with a business and a business plan and to help me get an investor." I find that funny. I find that comical. Half of me is like, are you guys not saying what the business is because you think that someone's going to steal the idea? Which then I would at least have like a little more, I guess, faith in that or respect for that. But it just definitely feels like you are just being like, I gotta be my own. Yeah, because he really is like this. He's just like, I gotta own my own business. I don't want to work for the man. I don't want to work for someone. I just want to work for myself. And I get that that's a great idea, like truly. But to think that like there's no other specificity or industry. I mean, he literally could be like hospitality. It's what I know. Entertainment. I don't know. Travel guide. I mean, listen, he could literally be like a travel guide. He could have adventure trips he puts on. He could, there's like let's just say there's so many things, but that's not what's happening. And then she like doesn't know how to answer him thinking that she's going to help him with the business. She then is like, "Okay, yeah, totally." But then like when is it going to happen? Like within the year? And then he says, "Yeah, yeah well, no, the within the year I'll start making moves." Are you leaving your job within a year? Within a year, I'll start making moves to leave my job. Making a move from your so because it's like really think about how horrible this conversation is. What the fuck does that mean? Well, we know what that means. He's saying, I don't even want to think about getting a job for a year. And then in 1 year, I'll start to think about getting a job. And that's the mental moves. The moves are different thoughts in my head happening. That's what it is. And I find that wild. And she hears that in real time. And then she's like, okay, so 2 years, closer to 2 years. And then she says, what feels like at least something else of value, which is like, well, what if you found a job? And then we think that she's going to say that you like, but then she says, well, what if you found a job that I liked? Because that is a job. Yeah, a job that she likes. She hates his job that she met him doing because she knows what happens. He just is lovable and irresistible. And, you know, there's a lot of things to resist that come aboard Jolly Pirates or whatever. And I wonder what in her mind the job that she likes would be. Like, I wonder why she doesn't give some options. She's like, oh, I know exactly what you could be. You could be someone who installs hot water because it seems like this place needs hot water. You can start with our place. I'll pay you. That's the job. I'll pay you to install a hot water heater in our thing. And then, people will catch on because I know you told me that it doesn't get really like cold here, but I got to shave my legs, honey. I can't shave when it's cold water. I get goosebumps right away and the hair grows back. You don't know what's like shaving and then like they grow right back like in a like little millimeter. Oh, it's a nightmare. So he is obviously feeling attacked a little bit by this. And by attacked, I mean put on the spot. And she is definitely putting him on the spot. Now, let me tell you this. There is not 1 ounce of how she's going to make money or do anything here, period. Okay, right? Okay, moving on. She goes in. She's like, yeah, I need you to find a job that I like because this job, I don't like it. You entertain drunk girls in dental floss, put them on your black back, and then flip them in the hair." And I'm like, "Is that what he did to you?" And he is like, "No, that's not it. No, I get tips, I snorkel, and like it's totally a family affair. There's kids sometimes, you know, kids around." She's like, "Yeah, that's the 4 o'clock voyage. But there's a 4 o'clock, there's a 6 o'clock, there's an 8 o'clock, there's a 10 o'clock, there's an 11 o'clock, there's a 12:30. And the 12:31 is disgusting." Oh, the fight about this is so hilarious when she's just like looking at him like, "I know what happens there. It's how we met." And he's like trying to fight because I'm sure there are some kids there. I mean, what a wild, different vibe from like a 5 o'clock, like, "Hey kids," like yo ho, or I mean, obviously I gotta really up my pirate game to like being like, "No, climb on my back, and then I'll climb up this mast and I make you walk my plank." It's stiff. "Arr, matey." I'm on that side. Um, so then we get another tidbit, and I wanted to know this because it's a little confusing. We know he had an ex, right? This is the same ex that he like caught cheating like on New Year's Day or some bullshit like that. I think it was like or Christmas. I'm not quite sure. But then he moved in with his mom, right? Like the mom's house, right? Hadam. And then the mom, God bless, passed away, right? And that's how he's at the mom's house, the ex. But then he says, "You know what? Here's the thing. Also, this is like trauma filled because my ex," and we're like, "Is it the same one?" "Made me leave the boat before and get a job at the hotel." Now, this was of interest because, in the travel industry, I had thought of hotel. I had thought, and so had you. We had thought of hotels. And he hated it. And I wanted to know like why he hated it so much. And I think, okay, he loves being on the water. I think that he truly is like a water creature. Like maybe his sign is like a Cancer. You know what I'm saying? Like he loves it. And so he just has to be able to do water sports. Like he has, he's got to like be a surf instructor or, snorkel guide. But all he has to do is find a way to take out the drunk party aspect and have it be more technical skill. Because the truth of the matter is like I would just hope that you'd make some money with the technical skill stuff. Maybe not as much or whatever, but like guides like that, like, if you have a big group, you make money. When she told him that it was like being a stripper and he obviously had a visceral reaction, he's like, "Don't say that." It's not gonna work out for them. I mean, truly not at all. Like, and I wonder what's gonna be like the ultimate crux. I'll tell you what I would hate to have happen, but by hate to have happen, do I wanna see it? Yes, I do. I kinda would like to see what would happen if she was, like, flirting with someone else there, like, while he was, like, on the pirate ship. If she was like, "Okay, fine," like, "Fine, do your stupid pirate thing that I hate doing so much," and then, like, while he's aboard, like, she's shopping, and then she, like, meets someone, and then she, like, jumps ship. God, sometimes they write themselves. Okay, last couple is Jenny and Sumit. Wow. Wow. So, Jenny and Sumit obviously are enjoying a beautiful ceremony where they are being welcomed into his parents' home because they're living there now. And Jenny, obviously having been embraced finally by his parents, has done like still kind of like a bad job. I feel like really assimilating into Indian culture. Like, and I say that because she obviously doesn't speak any language, but every time she does anything remotely about Indian culture, like with the food or with any sort of like ceremonial, spiritual, religious aspect, she seems as American as like if you had put Angela there. Like she seems sort of like absent of decorum or respect or holding space for this. She seems like, oh, I got to do this thing now. Like, but she lives there. And that's why it's so weird to me. Like after a while, it's like, okay, well, you've seen this before somehow, like in the movie, or you're just like, this is what's happening here. We're just like, know this now. I've gotten used to eating the food in such a way, like I know I get shy. I have a lot of, I know how to make masala. I can't talk. I'm so sorry. The chicken masala. I had to use one, but she doesn't. Obviously, it's like the spaghetti and stuff like that. Like, I guess it's just so fascinating because in my mind, I'm like, it seems again, I haven't been there. Like such a culture where it's a community based culture for her to maintain her like sort of insularness, her like American individual insularness. It's just fascinating. So, but she's putting on lipstick and she doesn't like the color of the lipstick. And she says it's not her color. And it was like this kind of orangey color. She says, I'm not Indian. What do you think? Now the color wasn't, I think, what she would pick. But the truth of the matter is it didn't look bad on her because it gave her a pop of color. It was like something, I'm sure it looked great on like Cherie though. They're having a ceremony again for blessings for the new house. And we get to see Sadhana be like, oh, you an Indian lady, because she's dressed up in the coral lipstick and she has regalia on. And this is where it is. So like obviously, we get to watch Sumit like break a coconut, and you have to break a bunch of fucking coconuts, just breaking them up. I'm like, my mind, I'm like, oh, good, you like drain the water. Also, like, can I have the water? I love like, coconut water. She has to carry things on her head. I'm not saying that's easy, but even in like the doing of it, she doesn't have confidence in herself, and she doesn't seem to feel like she's going to try for the respect of the ceremony in itself. I don't know. Basically, this part's over. Thank God. She is able to just carry across like what feels like a bunch of fruit or whatever. And now that Sumit's parents have accepted her into their home, we are somewhat bereft of conflict. Enter in Sumit's dad's sisters. So it's Sadhana's sister-in-laws. And at first they're there, and Jenny sort of hints that she's met some of these people before, but like doesn't really see them that much. Again, she's on a television show, and we know that like probably they know all the drama in the family. I mean, I just have to assume that everyone knows that at one point Sumit, I mean, this is a family drama, was married to someone, but then they had to like renege that offer of that arranged marriage because he in fact had found himself already another lady, this white lady that's older from America. Oh, by the way, they're on one of the biggest television shows in America. Like I'm sure, I mean, I'm assuming that at some point anyone in that family had heard this. Okay. So okay. So at this point, Jenny doesn't really have like friends besides Cherie who suffers Jenny. And it's again, I think it's Jenny, like Jenny's vibe is not full of energy and life and joy and like going to try. Like Jenny's whole vibe is I'm a victim all the time and I'm tired. I'm tired. I've already had to do things and I'm a victim. Like that's what it is. Which she was a victim of Sumit. So, okay. But because of that, she's never going to like be enjoyable to be in a conversation with. So no one really wants to talk to her that much. And truly that's what's happening. But, she's going to be like doing these kind of like chalk drawings on the floor. It's kind of like, yeah, I guess chalk drawings on the floor is what I said it. But they have to make flowers and designs on the floor. And Cherie's doing it, as she is like dutiful student. I mean, teacher's pet, even though obviously she's working her way back. And Jenny doesn't want to do it. Doesn't want to try to do it, is annoyed that she kind of has to be on the ground, but doesn't really know what else to do. And that's when the sisters-in-law don't know how to interact. Like at one point, Jenny tried to kiss one of their feet, and they're like, "No, bitch, you're older than me. That's weird for me." But now watching this, I also think that the sisters-in-law were expecting to be able to say whatever they wanted in like a language Jenny didn't understand, and for it to be totally fine, just said and then listened to by the people who have to understand it and then moved on. That's what it feels like. But so when she comes over and it's like, well, why is she doing this? It's bad. Jenny feels, I guess, negativity towards her, and she starts like calling this woman out. It's like, oh, what? Am I doing it right for you? What? She's mad at me? Why is she mad? Oh, I can't do anything right. And then, then Sumit's mom like tries to do it for her, like tries to make a thing and then gets on the ground. But then the sister-in-law's like, don't you dare get up. And then so she has to get up and like maybe acquiesce to the sister-in-law who's older. And then Jenny tries to confront the sister-in-law and be like, why do you hate me? And then of course we know why. It's because you're, obviously older. They can't deal. Now let's talk about this woman. Look at those earrings. She is upset. She's also wearing kind of like an orangey lipstick. The color would look better, definitely the color that was on Jenny on her. She's flabbergasted. She looks just like her brother. That's her brother's genes and her hand in hand. She seemingly shouldn't have a problem with Jenny because to me, any conversation could have been and should have been had to Sumit her nephew in the privacy of that time. It makes no sense for her to do this now when they're already married, unless of course she's doing her due diligence as like villain for this scene. And I think that if she is doing that, I love this for this woman. Like I want to lean into this woman's like turn as being like a villain on like the 90-Day Fiance soap opera. And that she gets to enjoy the scene, enjoy people doing two things. Some people are going to be like, how dare you talk to Jenny that way? But like the other thing is that she's not the only person to have those opinions, and in fact that has been the crux of Jenny and Sumit's entire relationship the entire time. And also, as much as Sumit's mom Sadnat like has forgiven and or gotten over it, in these moments of watching the sister-in-law, like I can't help but just jump to her face to be like, what am I witnessing? Am I witnessing a woman who's like, thank God someone else says it. You say it for me now because they weren't listening to me. She tries to be like, how young he was, him, like, how this, blah, 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 blah. But the truth of the matter is, at this point, there's only so much you can do. And for Jenny, I would, I'd be like, Sumit, anytime that's going to happen, I'm just going to leave the room and then you can handle it however you want. And then I'll know I'll never be able to hang out with that person again. Sumit has never been able to truly handle anything, though. Sumit submits. At this point, like the mother-in-law gets the sister-in-law gets kind of like angry and leaves, and which is great because it's not her home. And it's interesting though, because Sumit, whatever he says, Sumit's dad, who obviously this is his sister, doesn't say much. And Sumit's dad has been a little quiet this entire time too. It's interesting. This feels like a matriarchal family. Like hardcore, which I'm here for. But that must also speak to why, if I that's my theory that it's a matriarchal family. It speaks to why they dislike the idea of Jenny so much. Because unfortunately, Jenny represents someone coming in who is just going to require more care and give nothing. And Jenny's entire vibe and personality and character matches that. She gives nothing. She doesn't give she does not cater or try to or like sacrifice or give of herself to be of a community ever, and they know that. And so all she is someone who's going to take away someone who could help them. I don't know, my loves. It's really, I mean, it's like, let's just play this out. So then Jenny is going to probably pass on to the next part of her phase of whatever life is before Sumit. Maybe not. Okay. But let's just say she does. Sumit's then going to be single, widow. I guess in my mind, then, why are the women upset then? Because at that point, he's going to do one of two things: be single for the rest of his life and therefore be two able hands to help take care of things, or B, marry someone else. And if he is going to marry someone else, well, then we have two other options. A, the woman's going to be younger than him or older. I guess I wonder, yeah, like, I want them to play out their fears with him in real time. Does that make sense? All right, my loves, that was the end of the episode. I mean, obviously I talked longer than like truly. I mean, the episode almost was. But yeah, can you believe it? That's what it is. We got to watch Jenny be humiliated again by someone wearing interesting earrings. I don't know. It's hard to watch, but it'd be harder to watch if Jenny tried and was like a soul that like had given a valiant effort. But it's hard because it's like Jenny's end game is confusing. Sumit's end game is confusing. And so it kind of just feels like watching chess pieces move without any sort of like real empathy behind them. Like in the sense that like I do have empathy, like I already have a lot of sensitivity and empathy towards Greta. I really want her to feel good there, but I also want her to understand that Matthew might have a slower time understanding her needs than she would like. And I think like that's what it is for them. She feels like he is not understanding her needs, and or the fact that he didn't get the space in the drawers maybe even means that he doesn't respect or value her. But it could just also be that he didn't think about it or didn't see it through her eyes or didn't understand how intense that was for her. And I think it's a good example of how you can see like perception and how point of view can be hard and how you can desperately feel something and need something and want something and be so sensitive and so disheartened by the result or by someone's behavior when it's unexpected, but how you also have to stop yourself from like assigning a story to it. Like, and by that I mean not assigning a story, oh no, this person didn't do X, Y, and Z, and therefore it means this person doesn't like me, doesn't hates me, this isn't right, that whatever it is, whatever the story is. Um, because we all move in different ways. We all think different things, and sometimes we are slower. We're slower to like be able to understand things. And yeah, that part's hard. It's hard to have grace and space and sensitivity for people, especially when your own nervous system is fucking going through it for lots of reasons. And you smell, oh, honey, I feel bad. All right. So, final thoughts for you guys. If you haven't yet, please obviously like this video. Please thumbs it up. Please comment after it goes up. Totally helps the algorithm. Also share it if you're into that. I'm, of course, Chris L. Farah. I exist on all the social medias, but maybe not all of them. Like, I'm not on OnlyFans, but whatever. That's a social media, right? I mean, I'm not quite sure. But you know that I joined Letterbox? Anyway, God bless. I'm on Substack, though. Obviously on YouTube, Instagram. I don't understand TikTok. I'm not quite sure if it's going to be like owned by Trump. So I'm not quite sure about that. But you tell me. Chris L. Farah on all the platforms. And the L is for Lush. Remember the Lush bath bombs? What a vibe. And also, yeah, we'll talk about Love is Blind coming up in the next part of the week. So thank you so much for being here and listening to this. And you can absolutely get more of content when that comes to you. Are you guys excited about Love is Blind? It's been a weird season so far in the sense of what I've watched, which is up to episode 5. So I have one more, and then I'll be done with the first drop. And then we'll see what happens. I hear that it gets crazy around episode 10. From my friends that get some screeners. Not me though. What else, my loves? It's been so fun hanging out with you. Thank you guys so much for like waking up at 3 a.m. or whatever to hang out and like type. Yeah. I love it. I love it so much. Goodness gracious. Yeah, I hope that you're enjoying your autumn vibes. I hope you're PSLing if you want that or whatnot. But yeah, I certainly hope that like you're experiencing some joy. I don't know why I said posted like that. I posted a poem, not mine. I didn't write this, to my Instagram. Maybe I'll end it with this poem that I put to my Instagram, which again, I just said 14 times in a row. What a weirdo. You can follow me if you want. Crystal Farah from Mary Oliver. Okay. Don't hesitate. If you suddenly and unexpectedly feel joy, don't hesitate. Give in to it. There are plenty of lives and whole towns destroyed or about to be. We are not wise and not often very kind, and much can be redeemed. Still, life has some possibility left. Perhaps this is its way of fighting back. That sometimes something happens better than all the riches or power in the world. It could be anything, but very likely you notice it in the instant when love begins. Anyway, that's often the case. Anyway, whatever it is, don't be afraid of its plenty. Joy is not made to be a crumb. Ah, Lord. I say that to you I say it to you to like find some if you can. I think it's important to find it and then say it out loud and think about it later. Maybe even tell someone, because you might forget, but also the other person might not have experienced joy in a moment. And even talking about your joy, and that's like the weird kind of like beautiful thing about it, literally sparks it in the other person. So I think it's important. But also know that if you are not feeling great right now, or if you're feeling weird, or if you're feeling like confused or lost, I certainly understand that. So, all of it's here. All right, my loves. Take care of yourselves and one another. Stand up for what you believe and make art, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.